crime, disaster, or tragedy can strike anyone at any time. And the Peterborough Northumberland Victim Services is there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to provide assistance and support.
What happens to activate the volunteers, the police, on the consent of the victim, will mobilize our teams of volunteers to respond, usually on scene, to provide both emotional and practical support to these victims. That can range from just sitting and talking or listening to securing clothes for fire victims, transporting victims to safe places or home from a car accident, those sort of things. The volunteers work in teams of 2 or more, depending on the number of victims. They never respond on scene alone, so they always have that both emotional and practical support for each other. Some other things we do beside the critical on-scene support of victims is we can support them at court, both criminal and civil, as long as they are the victim and not the perpetrator. We do some telephone support, although we're not a crisis line. We help victims with any documentations or ongoing victim issues they may have, such as filling out victim impact statements, criminal injuries compensation, that sort of thing, or they may have some ongoing need for referral within the community.
In 1987, VCARS, the Victim Crisis and Referral Service, was launched as a pilot project in Ottawa and Barrie to test a police community response to the needs of victims. 7 years later, the Peterborough Kawartha VCARS became the 4th site in Ontario to become incorporated and the first outside the pilot projects. Its first class of volunteer responders were sworn in on October 29, 1994. In 1997, the organization grew to include Northumberland, and in 2001 the name was changed to the Peterborough Northumberland Victim Services in order to more concisely reflect their work in the Bi-County area. Many though still refer to it simply as VCARS. Today there are 38 VCARS sites province-wide.
When we get to an accident or a crime scene, the officers get very busy very quickly. There's a number of things that their attentions have to be directed to, and this is where VCARS comes into play. They're able to deal with the victims and their concerns and their problems. A lot of these victims are from a considerable distance away when something happens, and they need the support. I can think of numerous occasions where I've heard from victims. We've received notes and messages here from the people that were impacted either by crime or by traffic occurrences here in the county, and the VCARS support was invaluable to these people, and they've passed that on to us and to the supervisors in the office here. I have nothing but accolades for these people and the support that they give our officers in the field. It's the officers coming out of the academy are aware of their services, and that's part of the education that's taking place. And we're certainly glad to work hand in hand with them.
Volunteers from all ages and walks of life are recruited from within the Bi-County communities. Candidates are screened before undergoing 50 hours of training and must pass a written exam with no less than 75% in order to qualify as an accredited responder. Responder training culminates with the swearing in of the class of volunteers and an oath of confidentiality before a justice.
I think it really is important to remember the reason that you're undertaking the volunteer work that you are, and that's to assist the police in their duty, which is not a very pleasant duty on a lot of occasions. I think it's a real tribute to all of you that you worked so hard to get through this program and to come and volunteer your time, and I'm quite happy to come and assist in any way I can.
Primarily, we have to donate at least 2 12-hour shifts a month whether it's day shifts from 6 to 6 or it's night shift from 6 to 6. So you pretty much sleep with your pager beside your bed so you can hear when you get your call. As soon as we get paged, we have to call the team leader. Team leader tells us what the call is, whether it's an abduction, a domestic, fatal motor accident. From there, we have to call our partner, because we always go out in twos. So we call our partner. We arrange where we're going to find each other or meet with each other, because we'll travel in one vehicle. We have to let our team leader know which vehicle we're going, our license number and everything, just in case there's a problem. And from there we arrive on scene, at which time we have to call the team leader again, let them know that we've arrived. We meet with the police officer. He tells us what's going on, what kind of assistance that we have to give for him. Because 90% of the time the police officer doesn't have time for the victim, because they are dealing basically with a criminal or whatever the scene is at the time.
Today, the PNVS continues to provide advocacy to innocent casualties in a number of local communities, and is a broker for SupportLink, a program which provides assistance to victims at risk of domestic violence, sexual assault, or stalking.
The other component of our program is SupportLink. It's a program we broker, again, through the Ministry of the Attorney General. They're for fairly high-risk victims of domestic abuse, sexual assault, criminal harassment, which includes stalking. And our coordinator for that program will sit down with those victims and talk about a safety plan. It's fairly intensive. It takes her a couple of hours to do that safety plan. And also for specific victims, there are available the 911 cell phones, whereby hitting any numeric button on the keypad, the victim can access 911 readily.
Crime, disaster, or tragedy can strike anyone at any time. The Peterborough Northumberland Victim Services is there to help.